Day 3 video is a lot of time-lapse showing the work going into the floor. There are some useful bits of info, so check out the chapters for those.
Chunky, get out. That might have been a bit much. We'll find out. Oh, chunks.
I was making sure to remove all the chunks because they wouldn't spread, squish, or otherwise get out of the way. That would mean my floor wouldn't sit flat, and I didn't spend all that effort with the self-leveling concrete to end up with floors that don't sit flat. This was the third day of flooring, and it was a 9-hour workday. A good portion of that was just babysitting the stream over on twitch.tv/moosedoesstuff, but this section is playing back at 10 times speed, so you can get an idea of how slow a process this was. I made myself a little icing bag of glue so I could squeeze a little in around the corner of the fireplace surround. A lot of time would have been saved having not glued the grooves on every piece as well, potentially up to about, 20% of the time, or if I had someone else doing that gluing so that I could just place and tape the boards. As all the YouTubers say, as well as the manufacturers of flooring products, pull from several different boxes at the same time. This helps avoid chunks of color if dye lots from one box to another don't match very well. Also, it helps spread out the different colors the natural wood will have as part of the nature of it being a natural product.
Check this out. If you want to know if your square is really square, find yourself a piece of paper or a flat edge or something. Get yourself a pencil that you can make into a really fine point. Mechanical pencils can start out kind of rough, but if you just kind of wear down the tip, put it at a hard angle like this, wear down the tip like this, you should be able to get to a very, very fine point there. So then you take your square, you put it up on something that should be factory straight. So like this is a bad example of material to use, and then you just draw a line. Now the way you know if it's square is you flip that over. Again, this is where you have to have a factory straight edge, and you make sure you got your fine point here, you draw another line. And this, if it's perfectly square, and again, this is a bad example to use because it's plywood, it's got bumps and valleys and stuff. But if it's perfectly square, your gap at the top will be the same as your gap at the bottom. Pro tips from Moose. And there are ways to check levels too. Yeah.
There are two things I wanted to say about this tape, and since I have a lot of time-lapse time to fill, I'll try to find the most convoluted ways to say them. First, if your favorite YouTubers are gluing down their floors and not taping them, maybe ask them why. Floors will get walked on during installation, and anything that can be done to keep them from moving when walked on, I think is probably a pretty good idea. I wouldn't be using this if I was nailing or stapling, but for glue, it just makes sense. Secondly, check out how I'm applying the tape here. It's quite stretchy, and I use that stretch to keep the floor pulled together while the glue dries. I know some people use masking tape when they do their gluing, but I wouldn't trust masking tape to hold up to a 200-pound gorilla being careless while he's working.
Well, first roll of tape done. Nailed it.
I ended up developing this Torii gate or H-shape pattern over the seams. Look at me planning to make this a YouTube video. I actually took the time to switch the camera off the tripod so there'd be a little bit less moose huffing ASMR as I move the heavy boxes around. And then immediately proceeded to put it back on my forehead because I was going to be spending so much time in the master bath and off-screen time is bad stream. You might also notice I did a bit of editing shenanigans here. There was nothing really learn-worthy through most of this, so I just kind of jumped to the end.
Dog. And then we'll finish off this chunk here tomorrow. Seems like, oh, it's just a little bit. It won't take that long. I'll get one full row, easy peasy, and then the next row I'm gonna have to like plunge cut exactly perfectly to match exactly perfect these frames that I'm gonna make tomorrow.